I thought I had made the right choice, but there hasn't been a single year where I didn't wonder what my life would have looked like if I had stayed. My name is Robert. I'm 76 years old, and even now, after all this time, I still think about the one I let go. It's a strange thing how a person can leave your life, but never really leave your mind. You move on, you build something else. You tell yourself that what's done is done. And for a while, that feels true. Life has a way of keeping you busy like that. Work, responsibilities, family, the passing of time. It all stacks up so neatly that you almost forget there was ever a different path. But then something small happens. You hear a song you haven't heard in 40 years, or you pass a place that looks just familiar enough, and suddenly you're not where you are anymore. You're somewhere else entirely, standing in a moment you thought you had buried for good. I met her when I was 23. Back then, I thought I had my whole life figured out. I had plans, big ones, and I carried them around like they were promises I had already made to myself. She didn't fit into those plans, at least not in the way I understood things at the time. Her name was Emily, and she had this quiet way about her, like she didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Being around her made everything feel a little slower, a little steadier, like the world wasn't in such a rush after all. We didn't fall in love all at once. It wasn't like the stories you hear where everything changes overnight. It was gradual, almost unnoticeable at first. Long conversations that stretched into the evening, shared glances that lasted just a second longer than they should have, a comfort that settled in without asking permission. By the time I realized what it was, it had already taken hold of me. But I was young, and I was certain that life was something you had to chase. I believed that if you stopped moving forward, even for a moment, you would fall behind. Emily didn't see things that way. She believed in building a life, not racing toward one. And at the time, I thought that meant she didn't understand what it took to succeed. I remember the night it all came to a head. We were sitting in her apartment, the kind of place that always smelled faintly of coffee and old books. I had just been offered a position in another city, a big opportunity, the kind I had been working toward for years. To me it felt like everything was finally starting. To her it felt like something was ending. She didn't ask me to stay. That's something I've thought about more times than I can count. She just looked at me with this quiet sadness, like she already knew the decision I was going to make before I said a word. And maybe she did. Maybe I had been choosing that path long before that night. I told her I had to go. I told her it was important, that it was the future I had always wanted, and she nodded. Not because she agreed, but because she understood that I wasn't going to choose anything else. We didn't argue. There were no raised voices, no dramatic goodbyes, just a silence that stretched between us, heavy with everything we weren't saying. When I walked out that door, I told myself it wasn't the end, just a change. I believed we would find our way back to each other. But life doesn't always circle back the way you expect it to. The years that followed were full. I won't pretend they weren't. I built a career, the kind I had always dreamed of. I traveled. I met people. I eventually married, and I had children who gave my life a kind of meaning I had never known before. From the outside, it probably looked like I had done everything right, and in many ways I did. But every now and then, usually in the quiet moments, I would think about her. Not in a way that took anything away from the life I had, but in a way that reminded me there had been another version of it, a quieter one, a simpler one where I wasn't always looking ahead to the next thing. I saw her again once, about 15 years after I left. It wasn't planned, just one of those coincidences life throws at you when you least expect it. I was back in that old city for work, walking down a street I hadn't thought about in years, when I saw her coming toward me. For a second, I didn't recognize her. Time does that to people. But then she smiled, and there it was, the same warmth, the same calm presence that had once made everything feel steady. We talked for a while, about where life had taken us, about the years in between. She had built a good life for herself. You could see it in the way she carried herself, in the ease of her voice. There was no bitterness there, no sense of something missing. And that was the moment I understood something I hadn't let myself see before. She had let me go, not just in the way people say it, but truly, completely. She had made peace with the choice I made, and she had moved forward without looking back. And I realized, standing there with her, that I had never quite done the same. Before we parted, there was a pause, the kind that feels like it's holding something important, something that could change everything if you just said the right words. But we didn't. We smiled. We wished each other well, and we went our separate ways again. That was the last time I ever saw her. I've had a long life since then, a full one. There are things I'm proud of, things I'm grateful for, and people I love deeply. I don't sit here wishing I could undo it all, because life doesn't work like that. Every choice you make becomes a part of who you are, whether you like it or not. But I do think about that younger version of myself sometimes, the one who believed there was only one right path, the one who thought success was something you had to chase at all costs. I wonder what I would say to him now, if I had the chance. Maybe nothing complicated. Maybe just this, that not everything worth having looks like an opportunity. That sometimes the life you're meant to live is the one that asks you to slow down, to stay, to choose a person over a plan. And if you're listening to me now, wherever you are in your life, I won't tell you what choices to make. That's not something anyone else can decide for you. But I will say this, as someone who has had a long time to think about it: pay attention to the things that feel steady, the people who make the world a little quieter just by being in it, because one day you may find yourself like me, looking back on a life that turned out well, and still wondering about the one you left behind.